A black woman created this. Black woman created this. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Sundays with a Cherry on Top. I am your host, Cherry, and I just want to welcome you to another great guest that we're going to have coming on. But before we get into that, you guys know how I do. I want to remind everybody to make sure they follow me on social media. You see it down there in the ticker, IG, Sundays with the Cherry on Top, Twitter, Sundays with Cherry, Facebook, Sundays with the Cherry on Top, and also YouTube. And you can go there to see past episodes. You can go back to see past cherry picks. You can go back and see some commercials, some fun stuff. And that's about it as far as social media goes. Now, I have to bring this up because my mom, for those who've been following me from the beginning, right? You guys know that my mother, she watches every single episode. And after every single episode, she'll call me afterwards and tell me yay, nay, what she likes about it, what she doesn't. I mean, the reason why I have the Emmy in the damn interview all the time is because my mom called me after a show and was like, why did you take the Emmy out of it, right? So she made me put it back. Well, so this past episode, my guest was Susan Hayward, right? And we were talking about her experience on Trip to Bountiful with Cicely Tyson. And so, like usual, after the show, my mom and I get on the phone, we talk. And she says, why didn't you tell anybody that I was there with you at Trip to Bountiful? Because I saw it twice, right? I saw the first time, I cried through the whole thing. I had to go back and see it again because I wasn't paying attention. I was just so happy to see Cicely Tyson on stage and I was boohooing. And so my mother wanted me to let you guys know that she was there in the audience with me. So I'm doing this for my mother, right? If she's watching, I want her to shout it out in the chat. But I have a picture to prove that you know that my mom was hanging out with Susan Hayward at the Trip to Bountiful. So Bjorn, if you're back there, see, there we go. So now my mom can just stop bothering me about the Trip to Bountiful. So I told her that I would say something about it during this time because she was getting on me about it. So anyway, so thank you, Bjorn. You can take that down. But you guys know how I like to bring my mom up in all these episodes because she makes me laugh and she'll tell me, girl, what was that? Girl, no, you got to do better than this, all of that. So Mom, if you're watching, there you go. So she was there with me at Trip to Bountiful. She wanted me to make sure I let everybody know that. So there we go. So before I bring on my guest, you guys know how I like to do a fun fact before my show. So the fun fact about Keith is that this is our first time meeting. We did talk and we did kiki a little bit, but we met through a mutual friend, Jay Steven. If he's watching, I'm gonna shout him out. You can shout us out in the chat, Jay Steven. Say hi. And people email me and they say, oh my God, I think this person will be great for you on your show. You should interview this person and that person. And that's what happened. Jay Steven said, I just met Keith Hamilton Cobb and he's amazing. And I was like, oh my God, he's amazing. I love him, and I'm just as a fan, right? Because I didn't know him. And so he connected us. We had a good conversation. And so now I'm going to interview him today. And I'm really excited about him because a secret that I want to say is that, growing up, the women in my family love the soaps. My mom, my grandmother, that's how I got into Young and the Restless, One Life to Live, All My Children. And I used to schedule my classes in college around my soaps. So I would have school, I have classes, and then I would make myself have breaks so I can go to the student lounge and I can watch my soaps. And so this is why I'm just so excited because growing up as a Black man, Black woman artist, especially watching, Noah Kiefer, played by Keith Hamilton Cobb, and the impact that image of seeing him on the soap did to us, did to artists growing up, I don't even have the words for it. So with that said, I just want to bring on somebody in my eyes who I feel is an icon, and he has pushed envelopes and changed the game, the way that we see Black men on TV and in the theater. I just want to bring on Keith Hamilton Cobb so we can get this interview going and going and going and going. So so everybody out there clapping. I don't have the sound effect, but this is me playing my drums and clapping and welcoming you on. So I just want to say, before we start, thank you again for saying yes, because I know you probably have a lot of things going on, wearing many hats, and it just really, I'm just really excited to have you here. So before I start this interview with you, I just want to do a check in with you, because with all of my guests that come on the show, one of the things that we do is we just do a check in, because there's so much going on in the world. Some people still think we're in a pandemic. Some people don't think we're in a pandemic. We have this Delta variant going around, and so much going on in politics. Just how are you feeling with everything? How do you hold up? What do you do in situations like this with self-care or anything that you want to say? I just want to do a check in about that.
Hey.
Hey. Welcome.
Yeah, good to see you.
Good to see you too.
It'd be an honor to be here with you. This is exciting. Certainly unexpected. So thank you, Jay Stephen.
Yes, thank you to Jay Stephen.
What do? I allow myself to sleep as much as I want to.
Amen.
And while I can't eat as much as I want to anymore, I allow myself to get food when my body needs it. I don't tolerate lack of that sort of sleep and food and exercise. Because those are all things that if you are not deprived in some kind of financial way, which God bless, I am not. You can take care of yourself. Those are things that I could do through the pandemic that were unrelated to community, to being out in it, other than to procure whatever you're going to eat. But my bed was here, and the place where I can go and get some road work in, that was always available to me.
Nice.
Beyond that, I lockdown and life through these many odd COVID months was not the stress to me that it was to many people, because I'm a less social animal than I find many people. Many people found themselves very deprived by the social contact, and that wasn't a thing for me. And I found time to, because I couldn't do anything else, to sit and do creative work that I wouldn't, I would have procrastinated about otherwise.
Yeah.
So I got a lot done. Interestingly, the work on, we're going to talk a little bit about American War later on, I'm sure.
Yeah, we will.
But, when the show closed off Broadway, I turned my attention to the publishing, and that has become this sort of important movement in academia, where people are looking at the play and interrogating it in college classes. And with the advent of Zoom, it allowed me to zoom into classes anywhere in the country and be part of that work. So if there could be an upside to COVID, that was, that's what came out of that, is that versioning of the academic experience vis-a-vis the play and my participation. So it wasn't all doom and gloom.
No, that's nice. No, that's nice to hear. And one thing you said that I resonate with is when you said about the bed and the sleeping, because in the beginning of the pandemic, I had to really give myself permission to rest, because in New York, hustle and bustle, and then I would find myself rushing to the CVS when there's nothing open, right? Everything's closed, and I need to go to CVS or to the grocery store for something. And then I find myself pacing, and then I have to go, Cherry, everything's closed. Where do you need to go? Nothing's open. There's no auditions. Just, taking the time to breathe, give myself permission to slow down, and also not feeling guilty when I want to go to bed early, or if I want to sleep in and not get out of bed when I first wake up, if I just want to stay in bed, and allowing myself that kind of self-care.
Yes.
That was in the beginning was a little struggle, because I started to realize and learn how much of the hustle was still in me when we were forced to slow down. And I had to really talk myself into self-care and slowing down, and not feeling guilty for just wanting to stay in bed. If I didn't want to if I wanted to be in my pajamas all day and watch TV from my bed, and be okay with that. So I can relate to that. But it seems like it was an easier journey for you in that sense. Because for me, I was just like, girl, if you don't want to get out of bed, don't. I had to really talk to myself about that.
Now, the question for you now, Jerry, is is the industry as it ramps back up, and as the world in general, society as it ramps back up, is it going to be successful in shoving all that hustle back into you, taking away, your sense of me first,
Yeah.
and my health first, and my well-being first. So I think we have to be aware of that, because it's all about to run right back to, given the structure that America operates on, which is product first, money first. It's all going to run right back to what it was.
Yeah. And then reminding myself that I don't have to follow in that way.
You don't have to play. That's right.
Yeah, I don't have to play that game, and that's one of the things that I learned a lot over the pandemic. So good. That was a good check-in. Okay. So I want to segue into my first question with you, because I know a little bit about you, researching you, but having the opportunity to ask you about where your love of the arts come from, because you're an actor, the film, TV, writing. How did you get it? Did you find it, or did it find you? Where did your love come from for the arts?
I think, I think all creatives who are creatives in some imperative sense, some soul labeled sense, as I call it, are just that's who they are. So they had to maybe grow into it, but they didn't discover that they liked creative things, gravitated towards creative things, needed to seek out and generate creative things. That's just how it happened. I was, as a younger man, I wasn't, as I said, not particularly social. So coming up through high school, I wasn't part of the scene that would have been, the drama club or the glee club or any other. But once I got into college and started looking at theatrical texts, I knew I wanted to be a part of that. But it was always there, and if it wasn't that, it was creating in some other way. Whether it was building things out of wood and metal, trying to take pictures, paint, write poetry. It was it's just natural proclivity.
Okay, so you were born with it.
I would think so. I think most artists are.
Okay, yeah, okay. So let's get into the journey of your artistry to where you were when you say you were writing poetry and working with wood and just being artistic from childhood. Let's get into this iconic role you played in All My Children, Noah Kiefer, because just you coming on the scene, looking different, being different, and just something unlike what we've seen on TV, and also too, which is a conversation that a lot of my friends and I are having with you rocking your natural hair in a time when it wasn't popular. And then there's a picture of you and Noah and Julia, played by Sidney Penny. How did it feel to be? How did it feel to play Noah Kiefer? And did you know that he was going to be such an iconic character when you were on All My Children?
No, I mean, I didn't know that he was going to be an iconic character, but in retrospect, you look at, I should start by saying this is a very fraught question, because there's so much to talk about here in terms of what African American talent is allowed to do, how they come to the industry, what they have to navigate, choices that they make and don't make with regard to such things like how they wear their hair, how they speak, how they posture, how they behave. And, I originally was just happy to have, my first real paying television gig. And for a moment, that was fine. But then I began to look at what they were writing and began to ask questions, just because I was an actor who had training. And part of my training was to ask questions about, you give me a text and I look at it and I think, okay, let me ask some things, either of the director, of the playwright, whoever can tell me how do I interpret this, what you're saying. And the character was written by predominantly white writers who were trying to create this idea of somebody who grew up in an urban environment with very little money, with parents who had limited tools for parenting, and had now reached adulthood, and was on his own in an environment that could be hostile. And as an educated young man, I knew enough about people who were that. I hadn't come up that way, but I knew enough about them, so I could say, well, why, what? They don't all wear gold chains.
Amen. Yeah.
They don't all have sneakers that are big and wide open. I said, in my neighborhood, when somebody was a criminal, they tied their shoes so they could run fast. I said, if somebody was trying to jump climb through windows and stuff, he didn't have all this stuff hanging out of his neck to get stuck on things. It just wasn't. It didn't make sense to me. And I said, can I try some things in terms of his sensibility? Can I say less? And they didn't really understand it. And it's bold because I got no right to be asking questions. I'm a neophyte. I'm a baby, right? I'm just thinking, who am I gonna make angry? But if I didn't ask questions, I would have been playing this role that was very different. It turned out to be, because I wouldn't have had the data to take any chances to make him something interesting. And as I asked these questions and I tried things, and they were able to receive responses about how that worked out in the world, my choices, excuse me, my choices were validated. And so I was encouraged to make more of them, and so the character was able to evolve that way. With regard to the hair, again, I say this is fraught. We can very quickly get into socio-political discussions about how all this works, and I don't know what's fair game for Sunday afternoon. I don't know.
No, I'll let you know. You go ahead. I want to hear, especially because you were one of the first, right? So this is important.
Yeah, there was a brother on the show up the street, Timothy Stickney, who also had long hair, and I'm sure we had both been auditioning for a long time. And as my hair started to grow in, there's that period of short, little locks that do not look as elegant.
Yeah.
In many respects, can be just as beautiful, but in terms of the white gaze, that can read comedy, right? That can read ethnic and other things. And interestingly, you saw it in like the world of Cosby, like in different worlds, you saw, short, more nappy headed, that was considered a comic look. And coming into Read for Leading Men with that look, they're like, there's this cognitive dissonance that they don't really understand, and like, not come back later. And there was a point where my hair reached a length where I think it went for them from ethnic to exotic. And the difference was that the ethnic is dangerous and the exotic is sexually interesting or palatable in some way. I mean, I could get deep into the weeds with that, but
no, that's good. This is good because we have these conversations all the time, and of course, and I had one of my friends, Nakia Mathis, who was a guest previously on the show. She has Our Black Tresses, which is her own natural hair. She does the natural hair for theater, for film and TV. All the Black women and men go to her in the community, and we still have this conversation today. Like, you even hear Viola Davis having this conversation on a level to change Hollywood and bring in people who can do natural hair, and it's not an exotic thing. This is just how our hair grows out of it. We don't need to be fetishized. We don't need to be exotic. This is just who we are in our natural state, the way God made us, and how that's important. But when you look, hindsight is 2020. When you look back and hearing what you're talking about, of course, I could see how they would make it an exotic thing, right? As out of your look and out of your hair, because there was no one walking around like Keith Hamilton Cobb when you walk into the room. So I'm pretty sure their stereotypes in that area came to the forefront, right?
That's absolutely right.
Yeah. So it's just it's a much needed conversation, and we're still having it today. And like, I want it to change, and hopefully we'll continue to keep fighting it. But it leads me into, I want to segue into Andromeda, because you said something about how you stood up for yourself. You were asking questions and you were like, I want to take this character in a different direction, and character development and speaking up when you're new, green, and still standing up for your character, right? Because that's what we're taught in school too, to stand up for your character. I want to talk to you about Tier because you left this hit show in the middle, why it was as top of its game, hyped up, because of character development. And I wanted to talk more with you about this because I feel like a lot of artists sometimes will stay because of, like you were saying earlier, it could be their first job, their first big paycheck, health insurance. But for you, for Keith, it was more important for you to wake up every day and be happy with Keith. So I wanted to hear more about why you made the decision to leave the show and what was not working for you at the time.
It's another fraught and protracted discussion when you want to have it. To put it in a nutshell, it's kind of difficult, but we can start with the term hit show.
Mm-hmm.
This was not. You have to remember that this was not NBC Thursday night 9 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
This was syndication. This show was made to sell to Europe,
mm-hmm.
right? And that means it was made to show skin, to show sexy women and explosions, because they translate into any language,
mm-hmm.
right? There was intentionally not a lot of depth in this project, and where it aired in the United States, it would be like Sunday afternoon, Channel 11, So there was a billboard in LA on Central Boulevard for a while, but I would come, we were making the show up in Canada, and I would come down and go to meetings, and people had no idea who I was. I wasn't, this wasn't a show that was making me famous.
Mm-hmm.
That said, as an actor, you come to the project with the same mind as you come to anything. The same thing that one came to All My Children with. One comes to Andromeda and says, "Who's this guy? Is it Page? Who's this? Let me start asking some questions."
Yeah, yeah.
The first season, the writer, he only wrote, I think the head writer only wrote the first season, then somebody else took it over because they wanted something that was less serialized, right? Standalone episodes, again, something that they could easily sell to Europeans. So you didn't have to see from episode 1. You could see any episode on its own and understand exactly what was going on. And the first season, he had written some really interesting sci-fi that I thought I can build a character around that. So that's what I began to do. That's where I have fun.
Mm-hmm.
And when after the first season, that began to deteriorate because it was about these foreign sales, this syndication. And I believe, I may be remembering incorrectly now, but I believe I had a 4-season deal, and we had gotten to season 3, and I said, I don't, and I felt the same way All My Children. I said, this character doesn't grow; he only deteriorates. You are using him to fit whatever plot you're driving. Syndicated shows and daytime are plot driven, not character driven. In nighttime TV, when it was being done well, the characters and what they do drive the plot. The plot doesn't drive the characters, right? When you start shaping plot and then trying to shift your character sensibilities and characteristics to fit, you're in trouble. That's dangerous territory. And when that started happening to either of those characters, I was kind of like, I need to go be an actor. I need to go away and be, So my work as a creative has never been in service to the bottom line. I've never been money first. It has never been my motivator. And maybe that's to my detriment. It probably is. Lord knows I ain't rich.
But I feel like the beauty in that is that you wake up, going after how Keith is made, right? Because if you went the other way and made the decision, there would be less happiness. You hear about artists are always unhappy at times, or some people are just in it for the money and they're never satisfied. There's something to be said about an artist who puts their art first, and the money and all of that comes second, third, fourth. because it's like, you like, what's the saying? I have to sleep with myself at night, and I want to make sure that that person that I'm right with my decisions that I make. Right. It sounds like that's what you did, and it's a good story to hear, because again, there's some artists out there who probably going through the same thing, and they've made the other decision, or they're too afraid to make the decision that you've made. And so to hear from you is very important, because there a lot of us are going to be up against it if we haven't already, and it really puts you to the test of what's important to you as an artist. Like, you learn really what kind of artist you are, right? And that's in those circumstances.
That's
And
absolutely true.
yeah, and you have that pattern of like saying, okay, I'm an artist first, and I'm not just here for the fame and the money, because all my children and Andromeda, a lot of actors probably would have gone the opposite way. So I commend you on that, and it makes sense to me that you create your own work and that you write, right? Because I want to get into your writing as a playwright. I'm not surprised, especially after hearing the stories that you just told about you writing your play American More, and the reasoning behind it. And I can't wait for people to hear why this play was born. And this play examines the experiences and perspective of a Black man in America through the metaphor of Othello. And I know that. Oh, I love that! I love that picture. So I had to bring it. I love the set of this. That the American War Red Bull Theater at the Cherry Lane Theater, and I want you to talk to me about why you wrote this play and why this character is so important for you to write.
Wow, your guy has found stuff from over many years of this work. This is like very early that you're showing now, and the picture was from much later on. It had been developing for 7 years by the time you got to that photo that you love so much.
I love it.
If you're looking at it, I'm a little bit distracted because it's like a long time.
I love that, 7 years. That means that you were, it's your baby, and in the way how development works. So some people think it happens overnight, but 7 years,
very loving.
It's pretty normal.
The play was a manifestation of my life as both an actor in the American industry and my life as a Black male in America, at large. And there was a place where those two things intersected in some really profound ways, where I realized that they were never disconnected, that there was never an ability to pursue one without pursuing the other, that anything that we do in America is affected by what we have established as our racial norms and the way we deal with them. The inequitable and intractable ways that we deal with our racial issues from their very inception, onwards for hundreds of years. And theater and show business, whether it be All My Children, as we discussed, or Andromeda, or any part of television and film or theater, is not. It is unable to separate that from. We think as entertainers and a show, but Hollywood considers itself by and large very progressive, very left leaning. And the idea is, you can come in amongst us, you can walk into a theater, and all that stuff stays at the door, but it doesn't. The same racist perspectives exist within those institutions, albeit inadvertently at times, but they are there. They remain there. And they are going to be there as we, as I said, run back to making money again from the downtime that COVID has caused. That's all there to navigate still. And as I said, that all came together in a profound way to me at a point where I was being urged to write it down. And it was not my first thought to write a play about it. But as I started to put it on paper, I realized I had a lot to say. And, the 7, 8, and 9 years as we're getting on has been honing. And they say writing is rewriting.
Amen.
Putting it before audiences who have been moved across all manner of societal spectrums, whether they be racial spectrums or age spectrums or sexual spectrums, gender spectrums. People have been viscerally moved and compelled to speak back and work with this play, whether it be in the theater or, as I was saying before, in academia, scholarship that is being focused on it. Because this issue of where our American racial biases meet our inability to create better theater is real.
It's a conversation that's happening now. Yeah.
That's right. It is right now.
Yeah.
So if anything, the play came along a little bit early.
Well, listen, but that makes sense to me, because if you hindsight's 2020, right? Our steps are ordered, and with All My Children and the roles that you play with Noah and Andromeda, and how you break barriers and how you come on the scene different than anybody else, and before it's time. American More fits right into that, so I'm not surprised about that too. Like the way you're forward thinking, progressive mind, and people have to catch up. And that's your steps are ordered in that way, and I love that.
I never thought of it quite that way, but maybe you're right.
You know what I'm saying? Amen. But I want to ask you, okay, so one of the things that I find fascinating in my research about this is that there's a moment where the character in American More talks about how they related to Tanya and the masculinity. I want to hear you talk about this more, because I found that very fascinating. The audience comes in and they see this actor waiting on stage to audition for Othello, and then the play takes off, right? Mm-hmm. And then the character says to Tanya's speech. Why did you throw that in there?
Well, the frame for that moment is that I'm trying to paint the portrait of a Black actor who has loved Shakespeare from an early age. Mm-hmm. And no matter how much he loves it, and no matter how much he wants to explore all of the bounty that Shakespeare offers us as a culture, he is perpetually steered towards Othello. Mm-hmm. And the reasons for that are no different than me being asked, do you play basketball? Mm-hmm. Because I'm tall and Black. Mm-hmm. Which I have been asked endlessly, mm-hmm. throughout my life. And Othello is no different. You can go do the work, you can learn, you can grow, and you can fall in love with all the Shakespeare you want to, but people are only going to talk to you about Othello. Nobody's talking to you about Hamlet. Nobody's mm-hmm. talking to you about Romeo. Nobody's talking to you about Coriolanus. They're talking to you about, So I wanted to illustrate how this young actor was in love with the language. Mm-hmm. As I am, was in love with the poetry. Mm-hmm. Gender didn't part of it. He liked whatever the speech was, whatever that person was talking about, they were throwing down, and he was feeling what they were saying, so he wanted to say it, because the words in his mouth coming through his instrument and out of his body were a way for him to express his Black angst, anger, depth, intelligence, vociferousness, without somebody trying to shut him down. Mm-hmm. When it takes on the accent of Blackness, mm-hmm. when it takes on the demeanor of Blackness, when somebody's looking out from under their eyes, when they're postured like a Black man is postured, when they're up in their voice, that is immediately threatening to all of this white structure, right? Mm-hmm. Immediately threatening, and the knee-jerk reaction is to shut it down. And I went mm-hmm. to see Shakespeare and said, Shakespeare's characters, everything out of their mouth is full of enthusiasm and energy, mm-hmm. right? They open their mouths and they got something to say, and it's coming out in the most eloquent and sublime poetry that you can imagine. Yeah. So this character took that and said, I can express me mm-hmm. only through this language, and it doesn't matter what character that is, and generally that's true. Shakespeare has the scope that anybody can be anybody. Generally speaking, if we care to get off our ideas of what is appropriate and what is right for whom,
Yeah. Okay. No, that's really good. It's like I can't wait. Hopefully, I'll get to see it, which leads me to my next question about theaters opening up. Broadway's coming back in full swing this fall, and like you were saying earlier when you first came on about how things are starting to get coming back together. will American More again, or is there something that you're working on? Are you writing? What's next for you?
So yeah, there's a lot going on.
Love that.
American
Yay.
War, I feel like, it opened and closed on Broadway at a time. It was right around Labor Day of 2019,
Hmm.
so it was a bad time, and for any number of reasons, not enough of New York ever knew it was there. So it's been
Hmm.
a hard time. It's always been a struggle. As self-promoting, self-producing in this business has always been a struggle to stay visible,
Hmm.
and to tout the value of work. And I don't really tout the value of most of my work. You wouldn't have me up here talking about Andromeda or All My Children. But this
Yeah.
is a very important piece of work. So I'm always happy to run behind it. In fact, I think that's really my job right now.
Hmm.
And I'm showing up for any discussions regarding production that there are to have. We're going to be doing a reemergence of the play at the Pittsburgh Playhouse
Nice.
in February of 22. So it's cold
Okay.
in Pittsburgh, but you want to come down and see that. It will be the
I don't know. I have to think about that. Like, the
yeah, I
cold.
know, I
I'm
know.
from Las Vegas. I like it hot. I like the desert.
I understand. But that will be the first live performance of this work since closing off Broadway.
Oh wow. Okay.
We're going to be, I think, we're also going to be performing at Caramoo House Theater in Cleveland in May of that year. And if you know anything about Caramoo House, that is the oldest African American arts producing institution
That's
in the
key.
country.
Gotta make it happen.
Yeah, so that we're excited about that. And who knows? I mean, I think the effort is to continue the conversation that American More generates is too important not to continue to run behind it and try to create visibility. So that work will continue, and it is about what the industry wants to do and what it wants to let go of and what it wants to promote. As we said, we are
Yeah.
in this structure,
Yeah.
that is very racialized, and this play don't tell no lies. This play, it ain't playing.
Okay, it ain't playing. And so wait, for those of those, Bajorn, I have a picture. Did you get the picture of the picture of his book, the cover? Somewhere it's somewhere. Let's see what happens. It's live, so we'll see. But I just want to throw this picture of the cover of your book up so people can see it, see what it looks like. You guys can purchase it.
If you don't have it, I've got it. I can hold it up.
Okay, yeah, we don't have it, we'll hold it up. And you know how I like to say, go to the Black-owned bookstores first. If you can't find it there, you can check out Lit in the Bronx. Do that, and then if not, we can go over to the Amazons and all of that. But support your local Black-owned bookstore for American More the play. So I mean, I don't know, he might be looking. So Keith, while he's looking, if you have the book, please hold it up and put it in front so people can see. Yes, American More. Yes, yes, you guys. So that's there we go. See, double. Yes, thank you, Bajorn. Yeah, how do the young kids do it? Yeah. But anyway, so American More, guys, that's the play. If you want, so you can buy it and you can read it and be ready to go see the productions and read about what Keith is talking about. And before we go, I like to ask my guests about a cherry pick. So we're going to do a little cherry pick intro, and then I'm going to come back on the other side and ask you about your cherry pick. Let's do that. Nice. Okay. So talk to me about your cherry pick. And I'm really excited about your cherry pick because the one thing about the cherry pick, for those who are watching, who will watch later, it's a learning experience for myself. It's a learning experience for you guys. And I get so floored by the cherry picks that my guests bring on because I learn so much. And this is one of them that I'm learning because I only knew, I don't want to give it, Keith will tell you his cherry pick, but I only knew one playwright, Paula Vogel, with this cherry pick. And then I find out that a Black woman has this cherry pick, this play as well. And I went down a rabbit hole exploring this cherry pick. And I'll explain to you a little bit later on the other side. So Keith, tell us your cherry pick.
My cherry pick is Toni Morrison's play Desdemona, and this is a play that our wonderful Nobel Prize winning novelist, Pulitzer Prize winning novelist, who left us in 2019. Mm-hmm. She left us this play that she wrote. I believe she was in conversation with the director Peter Sellers, who was also noted for many auteur works over the past many years.
Mhm.
About he had directed a production of Othello and has sort of been done with the play, as many people are. And she suggested perspectives on the play that no one had considered. And this play takes place after Othello, in the afterlife, where these people who have died in the play meet and have the perspective of prescience from the afterlife, get to meet other people who have died in their lives and their families, and in that place they can all tell the truth to one another. There is no sense of having to be diplomatic or obfuscate feelings or thought or perspectives, so that we get through that lens to look at a depth of character that Shakespeare would not give us in the play. And I because of American More treats on Othello, I have been further interrogating that work. I have a whole nother project that I'm pushing forward called Untitled Othello, where a group of actors interrogate that play in depth for many, many months. And so this fits in with that work. I was in part inspired by some of the things that she brought forward in the play, and anybody who's interested, one, in her work, because it's very different, very much a departure from the stuff that you most of us will have read. Two, if you are a Shakespearean like me and struggle with this play, with Othello, there is so much there. The poetry is sublime and quite beautiful, and she is, I don't know how much she was able to write between Desdemona and when she transitioned from us, but as sort of a last legacy, this is an astounding piece of work. So I recommend it to everybody.
Yeah, nice. It's when I was saying earlier, guys, the cherry pick, like this was such a good cherry pick, and like I said, I went down the rabbit hole because now I'm like, I have, like I said, go to the Lit bookstore, go to, find it at a Black-owned bookstore if you can. Then you go to the Amazons, but look for American More and this play, because the woman that you saw in the video, her name was Rakia Troyer. I think that's right. It's French. She's Somali, but her tiny desk, for those who watches now and watches later, go to her tiny desk and watch her performances. It's ROKIATRAORE. She is in that Toni Morrison piece of Keith's Cherry Pick.
She wrote the songs. She wrote
the music and the lyrics. And I tell you, I've never heard of her, and I just went down a rabbit hole listening to her music. And I just want to thank you for that cherry pick, because I have to get the play and read it, because like I was saying earlier, there's Paula Vogel's version of Desdemona, right? And then I was like, Toni Morrison has a Desdemona, and so now I want to go and I want to read that play, because I just want to I want to. Bjorn, can you throw in the see, Bjorn's already on it. See, I don't even know why I was asking. I was going to throw in that lit bar, but it's already up there. What am I talking about? Like, see how it just came up right when I come back to Bjorn's good at that. Like, he'll pop it in the moment, which I love. But so I just wanted, this is such a good cherry pick, and I love how it connects into the American More and how you guys are dismantling white supremacy through the works. Like, I love it. So I want to thank you for that cherry pick. And I know my mom, if she's watching now, she's gonna buy the play too. So that's it. Before we go, this is what I want to ask you before we go. Your love of Shakespeare, and I noticed that you did a TED Talk Broadway. You played Antonio in the Tempest radio play, Shakespeare. And so is there, for you and for some of my students who watches my shows, do you have a preference? Like, was it hard to do Shakespeare from a radio play perspective? Was there pros and cons, as opposed to doing it on stage when you can be larger than life and everything that you're feeling? But how was it to do Shakespeare in a radio format?
Well, that's the difference. On stage, your body can help you put something across, an idea. Behavior says as much as words. But if you don't have behavior, if nobody's watching you,
Yeah.
your verse, your speaking better be on. You better be articulate. You better be able to find your way through that language and know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And it will test you. You're sitting in front of a microphone, so you cannot, there is no other presence for you to lean on.
Yeah.
So again, a manifestation of COVID, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because nobody was able to do, in-person work. But an adventure for me, because I did 3 of these things with a company
Nice.
called Shakespeare at in New Jersey, out of Jersey City. And it was a new format. It was a brand new format for me. So I learned a lot. I grew a lot. And they've enjoyed some success. So.
Nice. No, I love, I love meeting you. I loved just finding out so much. I mean, I say so much like we've been friends for 10 years, but, finding a little bit about you because of your love of Shakespeare, your love of language. That was surprising in the sense of like, you just don't know an actor's career, an artist's career until you look, until you explore. And I love the art and the artist in you. And so I just want to say thank you so much for sharing that with me today and how important it is to put self first and put your artistry first. And it's not about the fame or the social media followers or the Instagram followers. It's about really just doing the work and doing good work and putting yourself out there in the way that you want to be put out there. And so I just feel like you're a good inspiration for artists today. And it's very important to hear these stories as opposed to being told that you have to have all this social media to be a great artist, and you don't have to. Like, as far as when I say that, meaning like there's social media influencers, blogger influencers now finding their way into Hollywood, finding their way into theater, finding their way. And it's like, there's a lot of us out here who've trained, have gone to school, we're in debt, got MFAs, BFAs, and so it's refreshing to hear the conversations that we're having and the conversations that we went to school, and had them in school, and how important art is as opposed to being Hollywood. And so I just want to thank you for that message.
I thank you for hearing it and reinforcing it. Sometimes I lose sight too, and to hear it out loud, to speak it, is very important.
Thank you.
All around.
Great. Is there I don't know. Oh, Amanda Ward. She says, thank you. Bless us both. Thank you, Amanda. So, I mean, thank you. We appreciate that. There it is. Bijan, put it on the screen so you can see it. Well, that's it. This is the end. Like, these interviews are in and out. We don't, I don't like to keep the guests too long, but before we go, if there's anything else before I send you off, if you want to say, please do. The floor is yours.
We have covered a great deal. No, I mean, okay. I thought, read the play. The play is of deep importance. And as I say, I don't say that about anything else that I've done. I think some ancestors were trying to speak through this play.
Nice. Okay.
I'm not just spouting. I mean, I mean that. There's something else here that it is really deserving of our attention. But beyond that, I'm good.
Good. Okay, great. So we're going to send you off, and thank you again. And guys, I just want to say before we go, how I like to do my next guest and everything. I just want to say again, thank you, Keith. This was such a great interview. Also, thank you, Jay Steven. If you're out there, Jay Steven, I need you to pop in the chat and say hey. But he could not be on Facebook. He could be on Twitter. He could be on YouTube, because we're all over the place. We're on, and we're here on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. So who knows where he's watching from. So he may have said something and I just can't see it. But Jay, if you're watching this now or if you're watching this later, thank you for the connection. I feel like this is going to be a connection for life. Like 5 years from now, I can call Keith and be like, Keith, I need your advice. Sister's going through something. What do you say? Help me out. I feel like I can do that now. And before we go, I just want to say that my next guest this is going to be Sunday, August 1st, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Medina Senghor. So if you guys don't know her, she is with Those Who Wish Me Dead with Angelina Jolie. And the reason why, which is on HBO Max and at the movie theaters, but the reason why I wanted her to come on as a guest is because she left a huge corporate lawyer job and said, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be a lawyer. I want to be an actress. And then now she's in a movie with Angelina Jolie. And I'm like, what? So I just want to hear that story and get some inspiration from that, because, you know, sometimes there's actors out there like her where they're doing other things and they're too afraid to step out on faith. And that's what she did. And now she's in Those Who Wish Me Dead with Angelina Jolie. And I'm just like, oh, okay, girl, you better do it. So that's going to be my next guest. That's the conversation we're going to have. And that's it, guys. Thank you so much for being here. And I'll see you next week. Bye, guys. See you later.